So there's a lot of hopelessness in our world right now. And we mourn that. We mourn the division in our country, and we mourn with people who are suffering from hurricanes, fires, the shooting in Las Vegas. And here in Kalama, we mourn with the family because of the loss of their son. So people are looking to us to be the light of the world, but sometimes we're just as hopeless as they are. So where's our hope? I've got some stories kind of woven together for you today. So the first one is in Hosea 2. We're just going to read verses 2 through 5 so you can get a feel for it. Rebuke your mother, rebuke her, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. Let her remove the adulterous look from her face and the unfaithfulness from between her breasts. Otherwise, I will strip her naked and make her as bare as on the day she was born. I will make her like a desert, turn her into a parched land, and slay her with thirst. I will not show my love to her children, because they are the children of adultery. Their mother has been unfaithful and has conceived them in disgrace. She said, I will go after my lovers who give me my food and my water, my wool and my linen, my olive oil and my drink. Okay, so this first story, what you need to understand is this is the story of Abraham's descendants, the Israelites, and God is using some super strong language to describe their unfaithfulness. We need to understand their unfaithfulness in order to understand Hosea's story, which is our next story. So the Israelites had this pattern. They would love God, accept God, so they'd accept him, and then they'd get distracted by false gods, and then they would seek God and return and come back to him. And it goes over and over again throughout the Old Testament. So obviously these harsh words were during one of their phases when they were distracted and their eyes were not set on the Lord. So that gives us a little bit of background for our second story, which is the story of Hosea's earthly life. So we're going to start with Hosea 1. Yeah, I know I did it backwards. All right. The word of the Lord that came to Hosea, son of Beeri, during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and during the reign of Jeroboam, son of Jehoash, king of Israel. When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, Go marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her. For like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord. So he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Then the Lord said to Hosea, Call him Jezreel, because I will soon punish the house of Jehu for the massacre at Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. In that day I will break Israel's bow in the valley of Jezreel. Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to Hosea, Call her Lo Ruhamah, which means not loved. For I will no longer show love to Israel, that I should at all forgive them. Yet I will show love to Judah, and I will save them, not by bow, sword, or battle, or by horses or horsemen, but I, the Lord their God, will save them. After she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, Gomer had another son. Then the Lord said, Call him Lo-Ammi, which means not my people. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. Yet the Israelites will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. In the place where it was said to them, You are not my people, they will be called children of the living God. The people of Judah and the people of Israel will come together. They will appoint one leader and will come up out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. Okay, so in this story, God is speaking to his people through Hosea, and God tells Hosea that his life is going to be a model for the Israelites. So he tells him to go marry a prostitute. So he is this concrete model of what the Israelites are doing. So maybe through this concrete model of Hosea, he's speaking the words of God, maybe they're going to look at him and say, oh, wow, his wife's a prostitute. His kids are called Judgment, No Mercy, and Not Loved. So maybe they're going to get it. Maybe they're going to get the fact that they are distracted from God and they're not seeking him. Maybe they're going to get God's love and faithfulness and their own unfaithfulness. Maybe. So we need to finish the story of Hosea so we can get a little closure there. So, Hosea 3. The Lord said to me, go show your love to your wife again, though she is loved by another man and is an adulteress. Love her as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they turn to other gods and love the sacred raisin cakes. So I bought her for 15 shekels of silver and about a homer and a lethek of barley. Then I told her, you are to live with me many days. You must not be a prostitute or be intimate with any man, and I will behave the same way toward you. For the Israelites will live many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred stones, without ephod or household gods. Afterward, the Israelites will return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. They will come trembling to the Lord and to his blessings in the last days. Okay, so in addition to Hosea's story, we get a little closure of the Israelites too. God tells Hosea, bring Gomer back. And God says the Israelites will do some seeking and returning to him. So again, we see this pattern: acceptance, distraction, and then seeking and returning to God. If I had to summarize my personal takeaways from Hosea 1 through 3, I'd say our life in the kingdom is never about our faithfulness. It's never about our faithfulness. It's about God's faithfulness. It's about God's never-ending, all-consuming, endless love. And it's about our seeking God. Which is why I had James read Lamentations 3, and why in the first slide I highlighted love, faithfulness, and seeks. So now in the next slide, I've also highlighted another word. So the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. Gomer was distracted by men, and Israel was distracted by pagan gods. Israel was an unfaithful bride to God, and he called her back in love. Gomer was an unfaithful bride to Hosea, but he brought her back in love. God always does his part. He does his part of being loving and faithful. And Hosea gives us a great example of God's love and God's faithfulness. But Hosea doesn't give us a lot in these chapters on seeking. So the third story gives us a little more detail in seeking. And although we're focusing on the seeking, you might also notice acceptance and distraction in this story too. Okay, this one's modern, kind of. There are three friends: Joshua, Carp, Chris Folk, and Annie Else. Joshua is really wealthy. Think wealthier than King Solomon. So when Joshua's going to get married, he invited Chris and Annie to the wedding reception at his estate. In these modern times, the wedding invitation was texted individually to each person. Chris and Annie each accepted the invite by sending an electronic RSVP. The invitation indicated that the gates would only be open for a short time after the groom arrived, because Joshua has very tight security at his house. It's impossible to sneak in. On the invitation was a barcode. It had to be scanned outside the gate at the mansion. Chris and Annie got there early, and they parked their cars in the adjacent lot, and they walked to the main entrance. They waited for the bridegroom, and as they stood on the sidewalk, Annie texted, she tweeted, she Snapchatted, and then she posted some pics to Instagram of the mansion. She was really excited about the food, to share those photos. So she was super excited. Her friends were going to be so jealous that she got into this party, and they did not. So what you need to know about Annie is she's got a lot of hurt in her past. And so she uses social media to alleviate her pain. It gives her a sense of love and belonging when she can connect to other people. So she uses social media to distract herself from her own thoughts, give her that sense of love. Well, with all that use, Annie's phone battery started to get low. So Chris suggested that perhaps she stop Snapchatting and focus on the groom. But she continued to be distracted. So while Annie's face was in her phone, Chris paced along the sidewalk, but never took her eyes off the road where he was coming. While she was pacing and watching, Annie's phone died, and she had to run back to her car in the lot next door. So she ran back to get a quick charge. Well, while she went to charge her phone, Joshua arrived, the gates were opened, the phone invitations were scanned, and the gates were locked. Annie got back to the gate, and she begged the gatekeeper, "Oh, please, please call Joshua. Tell him I've been locked outside." So the gatekeeper did as he was asked. He called Joshua, and here was the reply that he gave Annie. He said, "I'm sorry. Joshua said he never knew you." So, if you read your bookmark this week, you realize I just butchered Jesus' parable of the 10 virgins. I did it because I assume most of you have a hard time connecting with the distraction of Israel, pagan gods, or with the distraction of Gomer, adultery. But I think that you could maybe connect with some modern distractions in our time, maybe a little more easily. So Gomer was distracted by men. Israel, they were distracted by pagan gods. Annie was distracted by her pain, actually, which caused her to obsess over her phone. So we're going to go back to Hosea for a minute, but I want you to ask God to reveal what distractions you might have in your life that keep you from a total focus on your bridegroom, Jesus. So, Hosea. Funny that this would be the first story, the first text I ever preach on, because when I was young, I saw Hosea as this faithful prophet, which he was, but I couldn't believe God would ruin his life. I didn't get it. What? God, he was so faithful. Well, what I didn't understand when I was young is that this really is the greatest love story of all. This is a story of God chasing after his people Israel, and chasing and chasing and chasing over and over and over again. And this is the story that God repeated for us. The Father sent Jesus to pay that bride price for us. He went to the cross to redeem his wavering, wandering, unfaithful brides. He paid the ultimate price for you, and now he is chasing you because he loves you, because he loves you, because he loves you. He wants to take away your stress, your anxiety, your addiction, your pain, and any other distraction and hurt that you have. He wants to heal every hurt because he loves you. But you have to give him permission to take those things. You have to seek him, and you have to seek him with your whole heart. You have to let go of whatever is holding you back from seeking him with your whole heart. So here's what else I didn't understand about Hosea. He submitted his life in obedience to God. God didn't ruin his life. He gave God his life. He laid down every dream he had for himself. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the godly man's desire to marry a prostitute, but he put aside all of those dreams he had for himself and gave his life to God. So it was never about Hosea's faithfulness. It was always about God's faithfulness and God's love. See, I didn't get it. I totally did not get it. So the Israelites, they had Hosea's family as this concrete model for them. And today you have me as a concrete model for you. I wish I could tell you I was Hosea in this story. I really wish I could tell you that. I'm Israel. That's me. Yeah. So here's my pattern, just like the Israelites. So I accepted Jesus when I was young, so that's the acceptance piece. Then somewhere, I don't know, I got distracted. I can't share every single distraction, but I'll share the early distractions. The first distractions I had as an adult that took my eyes off of God were if only distractions. God, I will be happy if only I get John for my husband. God gave me John for my husband, and he is fantastic, and I wouldn't trade him for anything in the world. But John cannot make me happy. It's not his job. So the next one was, God, I need to have a baby that's actually planned. In my head, this is so perfect. This is going to be so great. Happy little family. Oh, yeah. If only I get that baby. Yeah, I got the baby. But that baby didn't make me happy. Okay, God, if only I finish that college degree, I'll feel so accomplished. I'll be happy. Yeah, college can't make you happy either. Okay, so the next, it must be my job. It's got to be my job. I'm going to put all my energy into my job, which I did. That next big promotion, yeah, I'm in management now, and I'm still not happy. Okay, God, I'm pretty sure people that have a lot more money than I do are happy, so how about if I can make a six-figure income myself? Yeah, I got that too. Didn't make me happy either. I'm a little bit slow to learn and believe. I thought the American dream would make me happy. There's nothing in this world that's of this world that can make any of us happy. God let me have a lot of things. He pretty much let me have whatever I asked for because he knew there was no other way to get to my heart. I had to put aside all of those things, and I needed to understand that that perfect picture that I had in my head of what my life was supposed to be like was a lie. It was just a lie. There is only one perfect life for me, and that is the life that was created for me by God. Not only was my salvation dependent upon Jesus, so was my happiness. Some of you have if-onlys in your life. But the perfect life for you is the one that your Creator has designed specially for you. You don't have to be a slave to your if-onlys. Some of you are enslaved by fear or anxiety. There's hope for you. You don't have to be a slave to those things. Some of you have been a slave to if-onlys and have given up. And so now you retreat. You retreat to the screen. You retreat to TV, video games, pornography. You retreat to drugs. You retreat to alcohol. You are truly in bondage, but you can be released. There is hope for you. There's no formula for freedom. I can only tell you how I found it. So here's what I did. I stopped. For just a minute, I stopped. I put a pause on everything in my life. I stopped seeking happiness from the world. And I started seeking God. And I listened for his voice. And I took my eyes off of the distractions in my life and placed my attention fully on him. And I realized he was calling me. And he asked me, did all of those things that you thought would make you happy result in happiness? He had been calling me in love the entire time I was chasing other things. He told me that he loved me and he'd been waiting for me. And he called me back just like he called Israel back. So what did I do? I did an about face. I turned around and I started running as fast as I could in an all-out sprint in the opposite direction and right into the arms of Jesus. I had no idea that letting go of my will would result in absolute freedom, peace. It's hard to explain, this liberation. I know I don't deserve to be this happy, but of course it was never about my faithfulness. Jesus wasn't kidding when he said, whoever finds their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. And he wasn't kidding when he said, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. There's your hope. And he wasn't kidding when he said that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Church, do you want to find your life? Do you want the light burden instead of the heavy burden that you're carrying? Not only is Jesus my only hope, he's your only hope. He's your only hope for salvation, but he alone is your hope for happiness. Chrissy's saying, I will seek and I will run. So here's your question. Are you personally, right now in your life, seeking God and running toward him in an all-out sprint? Because if you're not, then you're doing what I did. You're running away from God. My youth pastor told me when I was a teenager, you cannot stand still in Jesus. You just can't do it. So you're either running toward him or you're running away from him. And in the real parable of the 10 virgins, Jesus only mentions 2 types of people. There are the people that planned ahead, prepared, that they knew what they needed to be there for the bridegroom. And then there's the others. They didn't think ahead, they didn't plan ahead, they were distracted by other things. Their eyes were not on the bridegroom. 2 types of people, moving forward or moving backward. Earlier, I asked you to ask God to reveal what distractions you might have in your life that keep you from a total focus on Jesus. But before you can hear clearly, you need to stop running. So everyone right now, stop your running for just a second and evaluate, in which direction are you running? Stop and listen. If you're already running toward Jesus, God may still reveal something that will free you up to run faster. But if you're running in the wrong direction and you know it right now, then the Spirit of God is speaking to you. Maybe you are really uncomfortable right now. Maybe you've never given your life to Jesus, or maybe you have, but you've stopped seeking God fully. Listen. Sometimes this is exactly how God talks to us. This is your only hope. This is how you can find freedom and healing. You can be free from your pain and your bondage because he loves you. It doesn't matter that you've been unfaithful to God. It was never about your faithfulness. It was always about his faithfulness and his love for you. He wants to take your shackles off, and he wants to set you free so you can live the abundant life he has specially designed for you. He wants to liberate you, so give him everything. Because he loves you, because he loves you, because he loves you so much. One of the things that I love about the earthly ministry of Jesus is that he never talks about the spiritual things first. He deals with the human things first because he knows how frail we are. So he always works on the human condition before he talks about the kingdom of God. So that's what we're doing today. We're working on the human condition because God has big plans for this church. But we have to be ready. So now I ask myself, if Jesus were here in the flesh instead of in the spirit, what would he do? What would he do to get you to listen? And so I think what he would do is this. I think he would put himself beneath you to show that he's a servant. And although he was God, he would come to be below you. And then I think he would pray and he would intercede like he did in John 17. Love that prayer. So here's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to turn off the mic in a minute, and I'm going to intercede for your hearts. And some of you are going to be called to come up here and pray with me for this church. Please listen. And some of you are going to be called to come up here and pray for yourself. Please listen. And then when we're done, I'll come back and pray for us. So I'm going to start praying for you, and Chrissy's going to sing a song.